Hello, everyone. I'm Manu, Global Sponsorship Program Manager at Women in Localization, and I'm here today with Valerie from Smartling, our 2024 Diamond sponsor.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, yes. Hello, Valerie, and welcome. Valerie started her 25-year career in localization as a freelance translator specializing in medical content. After a few years, she joined SDL's Montreal operations as an in-house translator and subsequently led their life sciences translation team. Valerie joined Smartling in 2014 and quickly became instrumental in growing the language services business. She first led service delivery operation and is now Senior Director of Language Services and focuses on vendor management and quality management. So welcome, Valerie, to this Fireside Chat.
Thank you for having me.
So I know I briefly mentioned your career path in the introduction. What were some of the pivotal moments that shaped your career?
Yes, for sure. Wow, trip down memory lane. So I did start my career as a freelance translator because this was at a time when I needed a portable career. Our family was moving around for my husband's career. So translation, which was always my objective, I always wanted to be in the language business, became both realization of my interest, but also, helped with the situation. So it was really perfect. Then, many years in, we moved to Montreal, and circumstances made me decide that to abandon the freelance way to have this career and work for one agency and be an in-house translator. So I was looking for the stability of an internal job, basically. Selling myself was never my forte. So I wanted to do the translation. I didn't want to have to look for work, basically. So being an in-house translator offered that opportunity, and I was able to grow a lot. Like my skills really evolved a lot because I was working with highly skilled translators who were giving me feedback, which I never had as a freelancer. So that was a big positive for me because I learned so much from these talented people. And at some point, unfortunately, I realized that like full-time, every day, 8 hours a day translation was something that I didn't see myself doing long term because it is very intense. So I saw if there were other opportunities, and that's when my manager at the time offered me to become a team lead, where I would be guiding and helping others in the team and looking after quality and potentially also once in a while dipping into project management. So that was a role where I learned quite a bit about the business overall, but just for one language. In Montreal, we were focused on French Canadian. So obviously it was slightly more limited. But the big change and what shaped the rest of my career was my decision to move to New York. I just wanted to be in New York. So I set out to find, a position where I would be able to move and be in New York. And that's when I came across Smartling. And I want to say that the rest is history because everything changed from then on for me. It was an opportunity that I never expected. The language services department was still at its infancy, so there was a lot to build. I started working with multi-languages, which I had rarely done before. I was exposed to a new type of technology. I've always used technology. Like I'm aging myself now, but my first CAT tool I adopted in 1999. So like very early on, my first one was Trados 3.0. So CAT tool and technology were always something that I was very attracted to. So starting working for Smartling became like coming home. Like it felt like, wow, now I'm doing the language side that I like, using technology, automation, and a new way to do this job that I liked a lot.
That's awesome. Yeah, it seems like it was a good mix of like two different things that you enjoyed doing, the language part and then like the technology aspect.
Absolutely.
Um, and I know you briefly mentioned, that challenge of coming into Smartling and all of a sudden working with, new languages. But on top of that, what were some of the challenges that you faced as you made that transition from a translator to a translation lead to now, being senior director of language services?
So the senior director title was earned over the years, but my main challenge when I first started moving, in different roles was to overcome imposter syndrome, because you're confident and you're comfortable in a certain role, and then all of a sudden you're stretching your muscle, like trying to exercise new skills and go into a new environment. So it was really believing in myself, trusting my instinct, and that was the big one. But as soon as I understood that it would happen if I embraced change, it would definitely help. And my evolution within Smartling was always, adopting of a yes can do mentality, right? And welcoming new challenges, embracing the changes that we were seeing within our own company, allowing, adoption of new tech and helping others, embrace that change as well. So that is something that I'm still very keen on today, like, working with translators. Again, embracing change and managing change are a big one. And evolving, adapting with every, new request, basically.
Yeah, I love that. Like embracing that positive mindset, I do belong here. I'm experienced enough to be here. And ultimately, that positive mindset is what's going to make you capable of achieving your goals and your ambitions. So I love that. And
And
then as
I'm sorry.
yeah,
Sometimes, even after 10 years now with Smartling, there's a few things here and there that will trigger that, oh my God, am I good enough? But then you just need to, dig deep and really, again, trust your instinct and know that it's going to be okay.
yeah, absolutely. And I find that super inspirational to know that, someone like you, even with 25 years of experience, you still battling this, and you choose to take the positive side of things. And I think for younger professionals, they're also experiencing this. So it's inspirational, motivational that no matter where you are in your career, you still have these little moments of like freak out of, what am I doing? Am I good enough for this? But it's taking the positive road ahead to be able to move forward. So what would you say as you moved up in your career again, what kind of skills were essential and how did you develop them?
Right. Um, there's one essential one that I would recommend anybody think about: data analysis. Like, I became a translator for a reason. I was not about maths, I was about words. And then fast forward many, many years, my whole world is data and numbers. But I love it. I've loved it. I've developed this taste for it. And when you are working in an environment that is becoming more and more data driven, it is really important to learn the skills to, embrace data again, but also know how to read it, how to use it, and make sure that it works for you. So our entire department is run, on data basically, and that is really a big plus that I would encourage anyone to add to their skill set.
Yeah, that's a really good advice. And I think from a localization point of view, data is super important and essential to move our work forward. So I think that's great.
Absolutely. Being able to demonstrate to your employer that what, you're spending all your time doing is actually bringing a return on investment. That's where your language service provider, like SmartLink, can help you, show you the value of what you're doing, basically.
Definitely. And I have one last question again on the topic of leadership in your career. So clearly you made, a positive movement into like the higher up leadership role. So as you've evolved into these roles and you've taken on more responsibility, do you think that your approach to leadership has changed? And if so, how?
Oh, it's evolved so much. I I was extremely insecure in my role when I first became, like, the first time I was a manager, and I realized that I was a micro manager, which is not helping anyone. It's all about quieting my own anxiety. It's not about empowering the rest of the team. So the moment I started realizing that, and I just started taking a few steps back, what do you know? I was working with incredible people who were bringing so much to the table and trusting that they would come to me whenever they needed advice, or they would need to have, to resolve or brainstorm about something, was really key. And that, I thought, was how I made them more successful and efficient. And a big turning point also was when one of my former managers pointed out that I was coming to him with problems, like dumping those problems on him, expecting him to solve them, rather
Hmm.
than coming to him with solutions and, discussing the differences and which one I thought should be better, and so on. And understanding that about myself really helped me as a manager, because that is something that now I try to ask my team to do as well. Like, don't bring your problems to me. Let's discuss the solutions that you're thinking about. And I find that extremely empowering.
Yeah, definitely, and having more of a proactive, dynamic approach rather than just like, here's all my problems, like fix them. So I'm sure like your direct reports are also very learning from you regarding that.
I hope so. Indirectly, like they are forced to be more confident in themselves, in the same way I had to do it. And
Yeah.
something that I really value as well is it creates hopefully an environment of trust, where, like, they can also give me feedback and bring new ideas. Like, once they've learned the way we've been doing it, and fresh eyes, they see that there's a different way to do it.
Mhm.
Let's discuss that. Like, let's make it easier for us, rather than keeping the old way to do everything. And if we can shave, I don't know, half an hour in any process, I'm taking it.
Yeah. Again, going back to evolving, adapting. I love that trend, that theme. Um, Now I'd like to switch the conversation a little bit to what it is that you get to work with every day, which is quality. Everyone has kind of their own definition of what it means, what it entails, but for you and your everyday work, how do you define quality in localization? And do you think that that definition has kind of changed over time?
Oh, completely, completely. It's evolved immensely. I used to approach quality a little bit from a defensive position, where what do you mean my translations? You know, and oh, this is preferential. No, no, no. My translation was good, but you're just wanting to make a preferential change. And over the years, I've realized that, well, it is all about preferences, and listening to your customers' preferences and making sure that you are um, delivering on those is key. You might be delivering a beautifully written translation. If you're not following their preferred style, avoiding certain expressions or using their terminology, you failed, right? Even if their preference of terminology is what it is, a preference.
Mm.
So, and most importantly, what I see quality, how I see quality is that quality it means meeting your business objectives. Do you always need to have like the impeccable, uh, no error, nothing translation? Probably not. It depends on the content, how you're using it, who's reading it, and so on.
Yeah, and I think that's like a key theme is, what is quality for the client and how do we get there? And so a lot of teams, and I think there's a big focus on quality now in localization, but if a team is interested in starting to focus on quality, what areas should they prioritize?
I would say look at the foundation, like the building blocks that they have, and this brings the conversation back to preferences. What are those preferences? You need to define them, understand what you're looking for, and I like to steal a little analogy from our founder Jack, who used to say, well, if you go to the best baker in town and you just tell them, bake me a cake, without telling them you're allergic to nuts, you don't like red velvet, and you better put a lot of icing on my cake, then your risk of not getting a cake you like, right? So it always goes back to style guide, glossary, looking at existing translation memories. Were you happy with what you put in that translation memory? Has your style evolved since those translation memory units have been saved in that data bank? So making sure that your style guide and your glossaries are up to date, that they're relevant to the content you're translating, because sometimes I see customers with a super involved glossary and none of the terms that are in there are being used in their content today. So, making sure that those are living documents that follow the evolution of your content, and revisiting the quality of your translation memory at regular periods, because if you're not trusting the quality that you're reusing constantly, then you're never going to be happy with the new translations you're getting.
Yeah, sounds like a little cleanup task can be due for some.
Absolutely. And something that I really insist on when I start talking quality programs with our customers is that we need to understand that a quality program should bring value, but not noise, not just create noise. And I've seen it over the years that you have two vendors, one is the translation team, another one is evaluating the other. And the evaluation team is not really bringing value. They're really more creating noise and like logging errors and so on, without actionable, feedback. Like, what do we do with those errors? Are there any trends? Are there any recommendations? Why is it, not meeting your expectations? Is it just because you're trying to throw shade at the other vendor?
Mm.
Or like, is there a hidden agenda? Hopefully not. But like, if you're not creating value for the customer, the entire program can be very noisy and expensive without value, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, it makes total sense. It's having a purpose for the quality program rather than just checking a box to say we're doing something about it.
exactly, exactly. It really needs to bring you something at the end that makes you evolve.
Amazing. Well, I mean, and talking about, things at the end, we talked about data earlier, which, brings me to the subject of metrics, which are essential when showcasing, the localization impact. What metrics do you use to measure quality and localization, and how do you, make sure that they're aligned with your client's business goals?
Right. So to evaluate quality, you need to adopt a framework, right? That is going to allow you to go to something that is very subjective. Quality is subjective, uh, to an objective measure to see what your quality actually looks like. So you need benchmarks. You need to have a way to catalog errors and potentially and then get a quality score, something that is tangible and that everybody agrees on. And over the years, I've worked with multiple models and frameworks, from the very old Lisa model to DQF to internal score calculations, where we were trying to adapt whatever existed. But today, we've come to adopt MQM, because we've realized that MQM is one of the most recognized and used standards in the industry, and we are really keeping up to date with what MQM recommendations are. So trying to follow the guidelines as close as possible, but also making sure that we evolve in our way to calculate the scores. Like recently, MQM released an update, so immediately we adopted that for our internal purposes, and we're also in the process of updating the tooling so that our customers themselves can adopt the new calculations, because that way, they're always themselves in a position where the tools serve their purpose. And what the main positive of this change is to more easily decide whether a project or whatever a file is successful or failed, so pass, fail. So that new score calculation allows you to decide what is your pass threshold, and which types of content or solutions would follow each of these thresholds. And then once you have that, you can measure the quality and decide whether this type of content, for which I had a pass threshold, I don't know, at 98, is actually a success or a fail.
It seems like, staying on top of trends, updates, industry standards was a big theme with that. And that kind of transitions into our next subject, which is, AI.
Yes.
And the fact that AI is playing a bigger role in localization. So with AI, how, what's your advice for teams to ensure that there's still a human touch integral to the process when AI is involved?
Right. So I strongly believe that, for the time being at least, human translators are very, very essential to any workflow, because they are the guardian basically of the language. So it is really important to have translators in the loop in some capacity. Like, it doesn't have to be them reviewing everything that you translate through an AI solution, but at the very least, they need to be involved in evaluating the quality, and certain types of content that still require a lot of creativity and, knowing when you can stray from the source and like take liberties. This is something that our, even the big, the LLMs are not yet able to do. So creative translation, transcreation, human translations for sure are important in that. And then for other types of content, then it's a matter of finding the right mix of solutions. Not everything should go through AI, but not everything should be translated with human-only translators either. We are now in a time when a lot of localization managers are in a position where they need to do more with less potentially.
Yeah.
They need to prove value. So it is really important to guide those localization managers in how to best leverage all the solutions that are available to them, and really invest in the human solution with content that is of the highest value. And in the background, other language services providers such as Smartling, we're working with humans to ensure that any solutions that we're deploying has been vetted by linguists, so that we are able to, make sure that the solutions we're deploying for those different types of content are meeting the expectations that our customers have for each of these solutions.
Yeah, so it sounds like, finding the right balance between the two, the right context, whether AI should be used or human translation should be used. Do you have any examples where that human expertise, it significantly enhanced an AI-driven localization project?
For sure, for sure. At Smartling, we have AI enhanced human translation workflows, so where basically the linguists become the validators. We are presenting translation output, and they review it to make sure that all the solutions in place in the background were successful at delivering human level translation quality. And if the output was not exactly there, they have an opportunity to increase the quality. So that is hugely important for especially, again, high value content where you want the human eye to make sure that everything was exactly to your preferences. But there's also different ways where the human translator, I shouldn't be like the translator, is extremely important, and that is on the research side. We're very much offering new ways to engage with linguists, like for instance, in terms of data and annotation or quality evaluation. We absolutely need the human eye into the quality evaluation process before we can even build a model to do this automatically. And the human evaluators or human annotated data is really important even in the future, because it keeps feeding into the model. If you're not continuously having a human eye to keep the LLM in check, basically, then you're risking degrading the quality of the output. So data annotation, quality evaluation. We even are engaging linguists in writing and refining prompts for those models, so that we really have the best output possible. So it takes a linguist to get to that point.
Yeah,
So
it seems like there's still engaging opportunities for for translators and linguists to remain involved, on many different assets.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Amazing. Well, last and a more personal question, kind of mixing your experience as well as the topic of AI. Personally speaking, how do you feel like AI has impacted your role? And what are some of the areas where you're excited to see this involvement with this new technology?
I am really excited about all of it again because I like my little toys and I like my tech. But I think we're again at a point where technology has a lot to offer, and personally, it has expanded the scope of my work with quality. So I am still focusing on internal audits of the quality that our language services is delivering, ensuring that we are really staying at the level that we want to have for our customers. But I have also started collaborating with our research and development team on helping, produce high quality evaluation data that is feeding those models. I'm very excited about getting to a point where MQM can be automated to a certain point, and we are able to scale. Like everything can be evaluated. We still live in a world where we need to sample content and evaluate samples. I'm looking forward to a time when we have solutions that allow us to evaluate more so that the confidence in the technology evolves.
Definitely. Well, Valerie, thank you so much for this super insightful conversation. I loved hearing about your transition, um, the role of quality as me personally is something we're starting to look at my company, and then the evolving role of AI in localization. Thanks again to Smartling for sponsoring this fireside chat. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to connect with Valerie on LinkedIn. So
Yes.
thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.